deliver us all from hell. Marana Prophecy Ministries. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And the Lord told me, I asked the Lord, is it what I think that it is? He said, yes. Clear, evident, manifest, plain. Plain. It is the truth. Lord, I know what they're doing. You told me this in a dream. Oh. Listen up, I gotta take you someplace first. Jesus Christ, I'm just saying, I'm using T is trampling or falling down, right? Okay, now it's powers, because remember this he has done on other people, all of these, just everything, all of these incantations to these, and all of these things, it has backfired because, for one, you know, there's contracts fulfilled, but you have to continue to do rituals. Able to, because another demonic or just say power entity has intercepted other entities' powers, because remember, this is a demonic hierarchy. So Satan's kingdom is divided against itself, so it cannot stand. So that's why you see the hierarchy falling from the domino effect. Or follow me back to what I was saying. So say if your hierarchy is trampling or falling down, right? Okay, now all the deities are fighting amongst each other, because first of all, they don't like each other. Second of all, they run in gangs. So now that the gangs are split up and they funking against each other, yeah, this is a real life Crip and Blood GD, and we rebuke that by the blood and power of Jesus Christ. I'm just saying, I'm using that as a scenario, as an example. This is how the deities move in Satan's kingdom. So picture that is what I'm saying. Now,
picture it, fool. Yeah, you picture it, like you anyway. Yeah. Fool, we ain't like you anyway. Fool, we ain't like you from the gate.
On to say, since his gang of demons are fighting amongst each other, they're attacking him. Return to sender. Do you get it now? Return to sender.
But remember, you as a Christian, born again Christian, whatever, a follower of Jesus Christ, okay, one deity, you cannot return back to sin. So you must pray for your enemy and then your Lord Jesus Christ. He has the vengeance, and he will get it. And it won't be late. It's according to your situation. So kick back.
It's on, y'all.
On the morning of May 6, 2023, a jogger moved down Old Williamsburg Road in York County, Virginia, before spotting a woman's body lying a few feet inside the woods beside the roadside. Deputies arrived minutes later and found shell casings scattered around her body, while bullet wounds covered her head, back, legs, and abdomen. Hours later, investigators identified the victim as 25-year-old Taosha T.T. Mitchell, a mother of two from Richmond, tied closely to the Madstone Bloods due to Vietnam baby gorilla set. There was Taosha Mitchell on the morning everything ended. But before York County, before the words, before the gunshots, the story looked very different.
Long before Taosha Mitchell's body turned up off Old Williamsburg Road, her story already started taking shape inside Richmond's East End around Whitcomb Court, where violence stayed so regular that people barely stopped conversations after hearing gunshots nearby. Whitcomb Court sat near Interstate 64 beside Mechanicsville Turnpike although the neighborhood carried problems deeper than abandoned buildings, old apartments, or hustlers standing outside corner stores through humid Virginia nights. Back during the 1990s, conditions inside Whitcomb became so dangerous that mail carriers stopped delivering routes there until federal courts forced service back into the neighborhood after residents complained publicly. By the time Tyosha was born on April 30th, 1998, entire generations had already grown up learning survival through street politics, neighborhood alliances, plus whatever protection local gangs promised young kids moving through those apartments. Richmond's 6 major housing projects carried some of the highest poverty levels anywhere south of Baltimore, while thousands of residents packed into communities where jobs disappeared faster than drugs, robberies, or funeral processions moving through East End intersections every summer. Whitcomb Court alone housed nearly 2,800 residents, although violent crime numbers there climbed so high that many outsiders treated the neighborhood like territory.
Now listen to the biblical words, territory.
Nobody entered unless absolutely necessary. Older dudes around Richmond still remembered.
There is a principality, a ruler of inside the air, ruling this area, this jurisdiction, this territory here on earth.
Tyosha came up inside that environment while balancing regular family life alongside neighborhood realities, pulling countless Richmond teenagers toward gang structures, promising loyalty, protection, status, or fast respect. Friends later described her as funny, outspoken, plus comfortable around almost anybody, whether she was joking during family cookouts with people from different sides around Richmond. Pictures posted online showed 2 different versions of her existing at the same time, since one page displayed birthday decorations, cooking clips, hairstyles, plus moments involving her daughter, while another side reflected red flags, hand signs, gang language, plus captions tied directly to the Madstone Bloods. People close to her said Tyosha always carried herself confidently around men involved with gangs, which slowly helped her gain influence among members moving between neighborhoods connected through the same organization. That organization traced back decades before Tyosha ever entered Whitcomb Court, since the Black P. Stone Nation first started in Chicago during the late 1950s under Eugene.
Did you just hear what he said? He said from way back since the 1950s. So there's demons that already have been here in this region. This ain't it.
Eugene Hairston, plus Jeff Fort around the Woodlawn neighborhood. Chicago's South Side already suffered through collapsing housing conditions, public aid dependency, unemployment, violent turf wars, plus overcrowded projects where gangs became stronger than community.
Poverty will be mentioned too, so that's a mind thinking, but it's also a deity. So what I'm trying to convey here, folks, is what you're looking at is what I'm trying to show you an example of is our human condition, the defilement of the human nature and or being. You know, we start off knowing what we knowing, we do good, but due to our environment and things that are in the air that are that influence us, that we're unknowledgeable of because our mind frame is small, our frequency is low. The deity has already got a hold of us and we don't even know because we're not walking in our spirituality, which is the truth, you know, Jesus Christ. We're not walking in that. We're born into sin, and so we learn how to gravitate and evolve and how to live and survive. And what I'm trying to say is these deities grab and latch onto us from you know, growing up in our society, our community, following and looking and seeing what other people is doing, and then from our own family, how much do they know about God and who we should be dependent on, not man, and that we should not be breaking the commandments, doing crime and things of this nature because it attracts demons. And that's what I'm saying. And as you navigate through life, you learn. That's why everybody come to Christ, you see, after the fall. You notice that all the criminals and all that, oh, I found Christ, oh, I found Jesus, and some go the other way, but I'm just saying, you hear many stories and testimonies of how people was walking in their carnal flesh and how it led to sin leads to death, or to be defiled and decapitated, to where the Lord turns his face away from you. And so I'm showing you the hierarchy right now of the demonic kingdom, the unseen realm of how these demons, they host us. And there's principalities and rulers of the air that are very high that are orchestrating these things out against us, one another. And gangs is a big example of how demons accurately move in the demonic spiritual kingdom. So this is this girl, and they ended up doing things to her, and she lost her life because of how she was living.
By the mid-1960s, the Blackstone Rangers transformed into the Black Peace Stone Nation while expanding rapidly across Chicago's streets through intimidation, recruitment, murders, plus tightly organized leadership structures. Jeff Fort eventually turned the organization to a national expansion before later receiving decades inside federal prison connected to murder charges plus alleged terrorism conspiracies involving Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi during the 1980s. Even after Fort landed behind bars, the organization kept spreading through prison systems, street alliances, plus regional factions, branching into cities far outside Chicago neighborhoods.
Listen, did you just hear? Now I've given you all the biblical knowledge, the law, and the understanding on the demonic hierarchy of the evil ones, the demons, right? How they move and work and operate in people in the jurisdictions and areas on earth here within our world. Now put it all together, folks. Now listen, all you got to do is listen to the story now, because I've given the facts, and just put demons behind people. Look at all the people and listen to the story. But I'm saying, now imagine demons that are the actual people, because that's true. They're working behind, they're operating in the people. This is the ones who are doing these things. So now, do you see now? Now you are actually walking in the realm of the spirit. You are now moving in your spirit, operating.
Where everything originally started decades earlier. Virginia became one of those expansion zones once prison politics connected local crews with blood-affiliated structures carrying Black Peace Stone traditions, ranks, codes, plus disciplinary systems built around loyalty enforcement. Eventually, groups like the Mad Stone Bloods formed throughout Norfolk, Portsmouth, Richmond, plus Hampton Roads, while smaller subsets developed names carrying their own local identities within the broader organization. One of those factions became the Vietnam Baby Guerrilla Set, better known around Virginia streets as VBG, while members followed strict rules involving beat-ins, punishments, chain of command rankings, plus violent discipline.
See, listen, it's factual, everything that I'm saying. Chain of command and ranks and leadership and all of these things. This is military movement here coming from the demonic realm. It's very organized. Do you understand now? And you see, now you know the operations, the leadership, the ranks, how they step on each other and they come together when needed. They how do you say it when you...
Tyosha eventually earned that title around the Vietnam Baby Guerrilla Set, meaning she was no random affiliate hanging around parties or posting pictures online pretending involvement. By her mid-20s, she already carried serious recognition around Richmond, plus Norfolk circles connected to the Mad Stone Bloods.
Her demon, the demon and or legion or whoever is in her operating is moving up the ranks. Did you hear it?
Status around Portsmouth, where she also held influence tied to the same organizational structure operating throughout Virginia. That overlap became important later once investigators started piecing together personal tensions surrounding relationships, jealousy, plus leadership conflicts existing beneath official gang business. People around the streets later whispered that having two respected women carrying versions of the First Lady title inside overlapping circles naturally created friction once personal relationships started crossing into organizational politics. Nobody publicly explained exactly how deep those tensions became, although rumors involving romantic entanglements circulated heavily once Tyosha ended up dead beside Old Williamsburg Road. Around
Okay, so she ended up dead. See? The demons got her killed, but now you're gonna find out how it went down, and then you'll see the orchestration and how demons don't like nobody, they don't even like theyself.
In that same period, another figure named Hezekiah H.K. Carney steadily climbed toward the top of the Virginia operation while building influence throughout Norfolk plus Hampton Roads neighborhoods tied to the Vietnam baby gorilla set. Carney grew up around Tidewater Gardens before eventually becoming known among younger members as somebody carrying authority serious enough that people followed instructions without many questions afterward. Court records later showed Carney already carried prior convictions before Tyosha's death, although his reputation inside the gang allegedly kept growing, while younger members chased proximity around him, hoping their own status increased. Dudes like Jaquan Jones reportedly looked up toward Carney while trying to prove themselves useful around gang politics, street conflicts, plus organizational business stretching between Richmond plus Norfolk. As Tyosha's influence grew, though, her life started splitting between gang obligations plus motherhood responsibilities, pulling her attention toward completely different priorities around Richmond. Family members later described her spending more time discussing nursing ambitions, childcare struggles, plus future plans involving her daughters rather than endless neighborhood politics consuming everybody around the organization. That shift apparently created tension internally once whispers spread, suggesting Tyosha wanted distance from the gang structure surrounding her daily life for years already. Leaving sounds simple from outside perspectives, although things change once somebody carries rank, knows internal secrets, plus built relationships with leadership figures capable of viewing departure like betrayal instead of personal growth. Within the Madstone Bloods, members seeking exit sometimes went through a violent ritual called a beat-out, where multiple members physically assaulted somebody before releasing them from organizational obligations afterward. Older gang members around Virginia described those beat-outs like painful farewells designed partly around punishment, while also showing remaining members what happened whenever loyalty weakened inside the structure. Yet, stories from previous gang cases showed those rituals sometimes spiral beyond discipline into long-term retaliation, especially once leadership believed somebody knew too much information, leaving them vulnerable afterward. By early 2023, Tyosha Mitchell reportedly started discussing separation from gang life around people close to her, although rumors involving pregnancy, jealousy, plus relationship drama increasingly mixed with organizational discipline until nobody around Richmond fully understood where personal anger stopped plus gang politics officially began. One detail from the case kept sticking in investigators' heads later, after arrests started piling up across Virginia, since the original beat-out was apparently supposed to happen on May 4th, before everything got delayed by a flat tire. That meant Tyosha Mitchell unknowingly received almost 48 extra hours alive, while the same people eventually accused of killing her dealt with basic car trouble somewhere between Norfolk plus Richmond. Nobody knows what Tyosha did during those extra days, although relatives later remembered regular conversations involving her daughters, future plans, plus the same quiet attempts at distancing herself from gang politics. Whatever hesitation existed earlier disappeared during the early morning hours of May 6th, once multiple members tied to the Vietnam baby gorilla set finally started driving west toward Richmond. Hezekiah H.K. Carney traveled with Jamaica Langley, Donisha Goodman, plus Acacia Jackson during that first trip toward Tyosha's apartment around Bethel Street inside Richmond's East End. According to later court filings, the purpose behind that visit centered around gang discipline tied to Tyosha trying to separate herself from the organization, while tensions involving relationships already simmered underneath everything else. Around gang culture, Beatouts operated like ritual punishments, where members physically assaulted somebody attempting to leave before supposedly releasing them afterward from obligations connected to the set. Yet, older stories from Black P, Stone factions, plus other street organizations showed those rituals rarely stayed controlled once personal anger entered the room alongside official gang business. When the group reached Tyosha's apartment around 2 Ross a.m., things reportedly turned violent almost immediately after they forced their way inside before surrounding her during the assault. Witness accounts later described Tyosha dropping into the fetal position, trying to protect herself, while punches, kicks, plus strikes continued landing around the apartment during the beating. Prosecutors later claimed Carney physically held her upright during portions of the attack, so the punishment could continue properly under gang expectations instead of ending once she collapsed. Somewhere inside that apartment, the line between organizational discipline plus personal hatred had already started disappearing fast, especially once women carrying influence around the same circle began confronting each other directly. Jamaica Langley reportedly carried years of complicated history around Tyosha involving friendships, rivalries, plus rumors tied to men moving through the same organization around Richmond plus Norfolk. Donisha Goodman carried her own authority as another First Lady from Portsmouth, which made her presence inside that apartment feel heavier than somebody simply tagging along during gang business. Acacia Jackson remained younger than everybody else around her, although younger members often followed older leadership figures, hoping violent loyalty earned future respect throughout the set. Those overlapping relationships later fueled endless conversations around Virginia neighborhoods, once people started wondering whether Tyosha died over gang politics, jealousy, pregnancy rumors, or all three crashing together during the same night. After the first assault finally stopped, the group left the apartment while Tyosha stayed behind, the bruised, shaken, plus trying to gather herself after surviving what supposedly should have been the official beat-out. She called her boyfriend afterward, asking him to come over while she explained that gang members had just attacked her inside the apartment earlier that morning. For a short period, things almost looked settled enough that somebody outside the situation might believe the danger had already passed after the punishment finished. That calm barely lasted an hour before another set of headlights started moving back toward the apartment around 2:30 a.m. This second trip carried a completely different energy once Jaquan Jones entered the picture alongside the same crew returning toward Richmond for another confrontation. Jones was younger than Carney, although people around the Virginia sets later described him as somebody constantly chasing recognition around gang politics, especially near old.
Listen, he said that this demon he want to go higher. He want to go higher in the ranks. So he's looking for dirt. He's looking to do some dirty work. He's looking for demonic contracts from Satan to go higher. He has to go through his demons that's over him, those commanders, those chiefs and things of that nature. So he's looking, he's searching for trouble. Do you understand? They can smell it. They can spiritually seek it out and gravitate to it because it's electrifying. It's energy. It's frequency. It's low vibration, folks.
Members carrying influence. Younger dudes connected to organizations like the Mad Stone Bloods often earned status through violence, willingness, plus proving themselves dependable whenever leadership demanded action around street business. Once Jones arrived alongside masks plus firearms, the situation shifted away from punishment towards something far worse than another apartment fight. According to witness accounts later used during the investigation, 2 men plus 3 women forced themselves back inside Tyosha's apartment while screaming started echoing through the building during the second assault. Tyosha's boyfriend reportedly saw armed figures moving through the apartment before running upstairs, locking himself briefly inside another room, then escaping through a second-story window later. That decision later became controversial online once people started debating whether he abandoned Tyosha or simply understood that surviving armed gang members inside cramped apartments rarely happened without weapons. While he fled outside searching for help, neighbors nearby reportedly heard noise, movement, plus shouting, although almost nobody opened doors around that hour inside East End, Richmond. By the time the boyfriend returned plus contacted 911, Tyosha was already gone after attackers dragged her downstairs toward a black Hyundai Sonata waiting outside nearby. Investigators later connected that vehicle directly to Donisha Goodman, whose ownership records quickly became one of several early breaks, helping detectives identify suspects before anybody properly covered tracks. What happened inside that car afterward remains partly unclear, although theories surrounding the drive toward York County started spreading almost immediately once details leaked publicly. Some people believed the group originally planned another beating somewhere isolated before things escalated unexpectedly during the ride, while others insisted the execution decision happened before they even left Richmond. Those rumors kept circling around one central idea, suggesting Tyosha's exit created panic among leadership figures who believed somebody carrying the First Lady rank knew too much information for a safe separation afterward. Other conversations blamed jealousy tied to men moving between relationships involving women connected closely to the organization around Richmond plus Portsmouth. Pregnancy rumors complicated everything further once people online started claiming Tyosha planned to leave gang life partly for another child growing up away from the violence surrounding Whitcomb Court plus Norfolk streets. Whether any of those stories fully explained the murder remained unclear afterward, although investigators later uncovered enough evidence showing the people inside that Hyundai were acting with purpose throughout the drive east. Cell phone records eventually placed multiple suspects moving along Interstate 64 during those early morning hours, while toll data plus surveillance footage tracked the Hyundai heading toward York County. Cameras later captured the same vehicle stopping near Newport News before continuing deeper toward isolated roads surrounding Old Williamsburg Road shortly before dawn approached Virginia highways. One nearby resident later told investigators that they had heard gunshots around 3:45 a.m., although the wooded location sat isolated enough that nobody immediately understood somebody had just been executed nearby. Prosecutors later argued the group selected that area intentionally after deciding Richmond carried too many witnesses, plus too much risk connected to killing Tyosha closer to home. When the Hyundai finally stopped near Old Williamsburg Road, investigators believed Tyosha was pulled outside before pleading for her life, moments before the shooting started beside the roadside woods. Court records later stated she was shot at least 8 times, involving wounds to her head, abdomen, back, buttocks, plus leg, while 14 shell casings marked SMB littered the area afterward. Detectives eventually identified cellular and pellet ammunition connected to those casings while reconstructing the scene through ballistic evidence recovered from both York County plus the Hyundai itself later. Nothing about the killing looked rushed or chaotic once investigators examined the crime scene afterward, since the attack appeared deliberate, organized, plus carried out with enough time for everybody involved to leave calmly afterward. What disturbed investigators later involved how normal the rest of the night apparently became once the murder finished somewhere along Old Williamsburg Road before sunrise reached York County.
Well, I'm gone. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content like this at More on the Prophecy Podcast. Everybody, go!